Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The issue of whether one should support the so-called Geza revolution has occupied the people of Zimbabwe's minds ever since Geza gave his now famous interview with Blessed Mhlanga in late January, when he came out and strongly condemned Mnangagwa's so-called Vision 2030 and the aspirations to change the constitution to allow him to stay in power beyond the 2028 elections. It's also come out strongly and condemned corruption and nepotism and a whole other string of evils that have affected the country. I don't think anyone could dispute that Mnangagwa is a dictator, that Mnangagwa is corrupt and incompetent, that Zimbabwe is a failed state and will never recover as long as we're for the dictatorship. So on that score, everybody agrees. However, the question is, if we seek to replace this Mnangagwa dictatorship through this so-called Geza revolution, what are we really doing? And the answer is clear enough. And Geza himself has made it abundantly clear. He and his friends are seeking to replace Mnangagwa with VP Chiwenga. Many people realized immediately that this was just a repeat of what happened in 2017, when some of Geza's own war veterans, notably Chris Mtsangwa, Atemadanda, decided that Mugabe must go. And in the end, there was a military coup led by none other than Commander then Chiwenga and other senior members in the military that forced Mugabe to go. And they replaced him with Mnangagwa. And now 8 years down the line, we all accept that was a mistake. So the question is this Geza solution not just another mistake? Are we not just repeating the same mistake that we made in 2017? I think this is an important issue that must be discussed openly and thoroughly. We have to make a decision which way to go. Ben, welcome to the program.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, I agree with you, but I know some Zimbabweans out there will not agree with what we are saying, you know, when it comes to this whole Geza revolution. But, you know, the evidence is what we need to deal with the facts that were laid to us. What is this whole thing all about? What is it meant to achieve at the end of the day? And then we should look at ourselves to say, when all this is said and done, what would we have benefited as a people together, all of us included in that, right? These are the things that, the questions that we're supposed to be asking ourselves and be able to answer. When you look at, the videos and, the press conferences that we were addressed by Comrade Geza, he said some of the most ridiculous things in there. For example, he thinks that, he is now entitled to bodyguards and ministerial, a job and so forth. In Shona, he actually said, "Duda kumbojgao." So if that is his mindset, for me straight away, this is a red flag. Of course we need change. I don't, deny that. But we need real change. And we shouldn't, take whatever is just dished out and accept that. you know
Well, I'll just play the video clip that you referred to there of Geza.
Saka munowina sei imuchorerwa chinje
aiwaga ndira ndikutaurire imwe zvinhu zvinoitika hani ndiri kutokutaurira kuratidza kuti hatina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira kuti tozviziva takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese we'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time, but ndiri kutotaura kuti commander vamunangagwa, right, navachiwenga handidi, right, ngavadissolve policy bureau tikwane isu varidzi vechunhu, ngavadissolve cabinet inozinana kazembe vana soda vanani havambodziuta vane kupaniwa vane kambamuda vanani, why do you hate your comrades? Kune mageneral, kune retired CIO vakawanda, kune retired commissioners of police and other senior officers vakawanda havadiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. Vana grade 7 ane capacity and capability. Grade 7, oita busy yokuti nhasi aitwa minister of state mangwana provincial minister isiripo. We are not apologetic about it. Chinhu chedu ichi toda kutopinda, ndoda kuti president vanipo zimota varipo chi, ndoda mabodyguards ini.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this?
I want to be rewarded as well, not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urikona vana mahiya vaya vana vamwe.
Well, he made it abundantly clear. In fact, in another video, he himself admitted that he spent a lot of money in helping stage the 2017 military coup that booted out Mugabe. And before we leave Mugabe out, we've got to remember that the same people who booted him out are the same people who had kept him in power for the 37 years. They only booted him out because they felt that their own position on the top table was now threatened. They did not put Robert Mugabe to end corruption, but to consolidate their own position in the regime. They wanted absolute power just as passionately as Mugabe wanted absolute power. 8 years down the line, many of those people who were involved in putting out Mugabe now find themselves being shouldered off the top table. And hence the reason why they want to stage yet another revolution to remove Mnangagwa, only to replace him with yet another ZANU-PF thug, Chiwenga. I'm going to play a short, well, about 7 minutes of this video clip of somebody who believes, who understands all those complications that we are facing here. And yet at the end of the day, he still believes that Zimbabweans should go out and join with the Geza revolution in fighting to end this Mnangagwa dictatorship. Let's just listen to this.
Ndibaba chinogurere kandi kutaurira vana veZimbabwe tinozviziva kuti muresi yatiri musawana sokuti vana baba chinogurere vari kudhomoka kana kuti vari kupenga vakutaura macitizens yese maopposition members please ngatibatsiranei nezviri kuitwa paground tisasema nokuti tiri kubatana nevanhu veZANU-PF tisasema nokuti tiri kubatana nevanhu verimwe bato ngatibatanei even veZANU-PF vacho vachasema kuti vari kubatana nerimwe bato ngatibatanei timire sevana veZimbabwe tiri chinhu chimwe chete hongu tinozviziva kuti hondo yedu yatinonyanya kupesana nezvaikana kurwisana inyaya yekutonga nyika inyaya yekumanikidzirwa president inyaya yekuposeredza president asina kudiwa nevanhu paakutinetsa nhasi ava inyaya yekuti bato rinoita zvarinoda munyika bato rinoita zvarinoda vanhu vatatu vanongogadza president zvavada vanongopa nyika president ndo nyaya yatinonetsana chete chete iyoyo nyaya yekuti vanhu vanofosa kuchuza nyaya yekushandisa demonstration nezvimwe zvinhu kuda kutageta kana kuti kukambena nyaya yekushandisa nyika kuti vagene kuisa president avanoda ngatibatsiranei tese ngatipindei murodhi tapinda murodhi but ngativhurei maziso kune zvichaitika kuseri uko because vamwe vari kufunga kuti vanhu vakapusa vamwe vari kufunga kuti vanhu havazivi vamwe vari kufungidza kuti ivo chete ndo vane kodzero yekutonga nyika ndio vane kodzero yekushandisa vana veZimbabwe kuti vapinde mustriti ndio vane kodzero yekutaura zvavanoda ndio vane kodzero yekutora zvigananda so nyaya iripo nhasi unoyo ndeyekuti zvigananda zvakaunganidzwa neZANU-PF zvigananda zvakaunzwa neZANU-PF zvigananda zvakakonzereswa neZANU-PF ZANU-PF ndo yakadhonza emasoni aenda kunze kwenyika uko iZANU-PF ngataure chokwadi ndo yakamutorawo ZANU-PF ndo yakashandisa vanhu 2017 kupinda murodhi kudzinga Mnangagwa Mugabe ndo futi yakadzosa emasoni Mnangagwa adzingwa nhasi uno munhu akadzosa tarisai zvaakonzeresa munyika akadzoswa nevanhu veZANU-PF but ngozi yaya yedu tese seZimbabwe taakunzwi yaitichirwa tese taakuchitorwa tese manje pangozi iya yamanje but akakonzeresa ngozi vanhu veZANU-PF imimi vanhu veZANU-PF imimi ndimi akadzosa emasoni imimi ndimi mune mhosva mukati mevana veZimbabwe imimi ndimi munokonzeresa imimi munoita zano ndega nguva yese munoita zvamafunga nguva yese zvamunoda nguva yese ndimi akamudzosa adzingwa naMugabe chitarisai zvamaita the whole world manje tarisai zvaakiitika munyika yeZimbabwe Mugabe akagara achitaura kairi kairi uye munhu akatoka nyika uye muchachema uye munhu muchachema uye but makamudzosa imimi muri vatatu vane vashanu chete nemagenerals chinonetsa ndechekuti kana madzosa vanhu kana maita zvamunenge maita vanhu veZANU-PF kana yangozi maakuti vanhu nyika yose onai ngatichemei tikatibatsiranei tinogara tichikuudzai kuti varume musaita zano ndega varume nyika haisi yenyu mega varume musatora vanhu kuvaita matuta zvirombe iko zvine zvitarisai muone ngozi yapinda munyika manje even navasina kudaidza Mnangagwa kuti atoke nyika vachita taapa nguva yakaoma taapa problem taapa dambudziko nemi vacho futi maapa problem wana nababa Chiwenga onai zvinhu zvamakaita izvi zvinhu zvamakatora kuSouth Africa izvi Onai zvinhu zvamakadzosa mupower izvi. Wana baba Geza. Nhasi unoona maakutambudzika manje mese ivhira na baba Geza wacho maakutambudzwa nechiri chacho futi. Wana baba Chiwenga machona maakuoniswa nhamo manje mugovernment muyabuya. Chitarisai manje chinhu ichochi ndo chaunganidza zvigananda zvese izvi. Nyika haina kubvira chida, nyika haina kubvira chitambira. Maelection a2018 chacho makabatsirira mese vanhu veZANU-PF mukabatsira kuponda Chamisa. 2023 mukabatsidza futi kuti zvigananda zvaka zvanyura kare zvamo. Atina kumboona kana munhu weZANU-PF achichema itaidza mara. Kana kuchema nekidini Pastor Masaya. Kana kuchema mbone Ng'ombe kana kuti Chitsungi kana kuti ani. Atina kumboona vanhu veZANU-PF vakachema vanhu vakapiswa dzimba 28, 27, 2008. Atina kumboona kana dambudziko kana vanhu veZANU-PF vakaenda kunodemonstrata paHQ yeZANU-PF kuti budisai vanhu vari mumajeri. Zvinonaka kana zviri kwangeke. Nhasi uno nemiwo futi maZANU-PF maapa supu manje. Saka maakuti uyai wabereki tibatane tiwisangane. Alright, ngatisanganei. Chatoda kuudza vanhu veopposition party. Ndini baba Chinogurei. Ngatibatanei. Musadududza musadzokera kumashure. Nokuti hondo kana tikasiya futi iwo wacho wakadaidza Mnangagwa wacho zvatowanetsawo zvatovatambudzawo havachatombozvikwanisi futi kuti vamubvise. Pasina macitizens. Ndavakana hondo yacho chaichayoka. Hondo ino haingowambwa kakungowambwa from Norway. Tichitera mitemo yeUnited Nations kana yeSADC kana yeAfrican Union kana yeEuropean Union. Even mitemo yepasi rese. Even mitemo yenyika. Saka vanototanga vatungamidza Provo mberi. Saka isusu Provo ngatitungamirai pamberi kuti mauto edu awane power, mauto edu awane simba. Takutaura vana veZimbabwe. Tikasiya futi ka uyu Mnangagwa hatisagona kumubvisa. Even Chamisa agone kubvisa Mnangagwa ari wani. Even tikamira tiri wachamisa isusu hatitaita atijoina izvozvo but isu tichasafa, vana vedu ndo vachasafa, hama dzedu ndo dzichasafa. Kana chinamata mukunamata vacheche muchakunamata makaita kufongora muchitarisa futi kumasuro.
Well, I'll stop it there. Ben, what's your reaction?
You know, I got mixed feelings right now. You know, I'm laughing at, you know, the fact that, you know, you started this thing, you know, by stating the facts, the things that actually happened, and the mistakes that were made and that will be made. And you acknowledge ZANU-PF is a problem. And then you go and rubbish all the good things that you have said by stating things that are not true. When Mnangagwa came back, we partnered with ZANU-PF. Yes, most citizens were out in the streets celebrating with the soldiers, celebrating with ZANU-PF on the outskirts of Mugabe. So we cannot say ZANU-PF brought back Mnangagwa. We brought him back. And then now he goes on to acknowledge, to say there is things that are happening, you know, at the back we must watch out for. You know how ZANU-PF operates. You know their DNA. You know they're poisonous. But you still want to forge ahead with them. How then are you removing the problem when you are now with the problem? You can never say we will do after. We could have done the same thing. Why didn't we do it when Mnangagwa came back? We didn't. What makes you so sure that we will do it now? Because once Mnangagwa is gone and Chiwenga gets in, Chiwenga is now government. He's got now the authority and the power. He can do the same thing or even worse. It's foolishness to be going around and round in circles and you know, encouraging people to do nonsense. It's really foolish.
My take on this one is he is absolutely right that Geza and company need the support of the public to help them swing the power to their side, just as much as when they staged the military coup in 2017, at the critical point when the announcement of the coup had been announced, that the coup had taken place. At that point, Mnangagwa and company were concerned that if the people of Zimbabwe turned around and said they had nothing to do with this, that would have empowered Mugabe and his supporters to challenge the coup. So they desperately needed the people to come out in the street and say they support the military coup, which the people duly did. But I also agree with you that having done that, even though some of the people involved, the likes of Chris Mtsangwa, had promised opposition leaders like Morgan Tsvangirai that post the military coup, there will be a GNU. When the coup plotters realized that they successfully managed to force Mugabe to resign, they changed the tune. They decided that this was an internal matter, this ZANU-PF internal matter, and the opposition had no say in it. And so the GNU never took place. They went ahead and had the 2018 elections, which the likes of Chiwenga participated in and played their part in rigging those elections, denying the people their fundamental right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country, which has been the heart of our problem in Zimbabwe these last 45 years. So as much as our friend is passionate about we cannot do it alone, he's right. Well, I'm not sure whether I can say he is right in that. But the Geza and the military could do it on their own. If Geza was to get the army behind him, they could do what they did in 2017. But even if they did, they know that if they do not get the public support at the critical moment, they could be in serious trouble. So that is the dilemma that we are facing. But I think personally that to pretend that somehow the people cannot deliver meaningful democratic change without teaming up with these ZANU-PF factions is to miss the point completely. We are in this political mess because even when we were fighting for our independence, the nation did not consider the question of if we have an armed struggle, what kind of leaders would it throw up? I've asked that question on this platform, and I've said it then that we should have asked ourselves that question. And we should have been on our guard that if the armed struggle should throw up the kind of thugs who will only seek to replace the white oppressors with themselves so that they become the new oppressors, we have got to fight back immediately to stop it. We did not consider it, And when it happened, we did nothing. And hence the reason why ZANU-PF has ruled roughshod over the people for the last 45 years. This is the reason why we are where we are today. This whole argument that the people cannot bring about any meaningful political change in the country without the army or without teaming up with the likes of Geza and a faction of the ZANU-PF is a nonsense. It should be discounted and discarded with the contempt it clearly deserves. Ben.
I totally agree with you. You know, Mnangagwa is not just the problem. I think we should establish that by now. We had Mugabe and we said he was the problem. And we removed Mugabe and put Mnangagwa, who turned out to be even worse. Clearly, you know, they are just part of the problem. Yes, I agree. But the real problem is this organization called ZANU-PF. This band of thugs, you know, the way you put it, and you put it beautifully. We need to get rid of the problem and the problem completely. Joining up with ZANU-PF for the time being and hoping that we will, you know, magically wish them away or play, it will not work. We've been here before. ZANU-PF is the problem. ZANU-PF must go entirely. Start all over, anew, clean slate. This is what Zimbabwe needs, a hard reset. And then figure out what needs to be done, where we went wrong, and fix it.
Yes, I totally agree with you there, Ben. I think what people should understand here is that in the last 45 years, the country did have many opportunities to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, particularly during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Why some people, even now, with the benefit of hindsight, still have no clue that the 2008 to 2013 GNU's primary purpose was to implement the democratic reforms and stop ZANU-PF rigging elections. Beggars belief. If people understood that, they would know we would not be where we are today if the MDC leaders had implemented the reforms. This whole idea that Chamisa on his own cannot end the ZANU-PF dictatorship is a nonsense. The GNU was the opportunity for the MDC to end ZANU-PF, the ZANU-PF dictatorship. Why they failed to implement even one token reform is because Mugabe bribed them and they forgot about the reforms. The fact that we, the people, have failed to realize that we are dealing with here an opposition that is corrupt and incompetent and utterly useless. After 25 years on the political stage, MDC, CCC have failed to implement even one token reform. And they've been participating in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And we, the people, have failed to realize that that is what is happening. That is our problem. We can end the ZANU-PF dictatorship without having to team up with a ZANU-PF faction, which we know that if they were to get back into power, they will forget that we played our part. If Chiwenga was to get into State House, the number one priority for him will be to consolidate his own position. He will be promoting the likes of Blessed Geza and make him minister, give him bodyguards to reward him for being the one who have masterminded this so-called Geza revolution that got him into power. And if you seriously think that the Chiwenga regime will hold free, fair, and credible elections in 2028 and risk losing power, then you are incredibly naive, because they'll never do that. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
In closing, I would want to say an opportunity or the direction that Zimbabwe needs to take to find democracy has been laid out before us. In fact, it has been written for us. We were given recommendations, and we have always been given recommendations to fix our problem. And our main problem is our inability to hold free, fair, and credible elections. Because without free, fair, and credible elections, you have a government that is not accountable to anybody. They are the supreme law of the land. They say what goes. So we need to take those recommendations seriously. The people that give us these recommendations are trying to help us find our way, to help Zimbabwe get back on track. It is now up to you and I to see that, this is the way to go. Because that is the only way to go. Without reforming this system, whoever comes in will be another ZANU-PF. And like you said, whoever gets into power, the moment they're in power, they are consolidating, that power for themselves. And it becomes difficult and more difficult to remove them because they are sitting in their roots. So I urge every Zimbabwean, it is time for us to wake up. We cannot continue this looting, this corruption, and so forth. Continue going. For the sake, not for us, maybe our kids. They will have nothing left. We need to start putting our act together. Half the job has been done for us through those recommendations. All we just need is to push and see that these recommendations are passed through. Thank you.
I think what we are seeing in Zimbabwe is a classical case of the tale who will bell the cat, in which the mice got together and said, if we could build the bell on the cat, we'll know when the cat is coming. And so we'll have enough time to hide. All the mice were excited by that suggestion. until one of them finally asked, who is going to put the bell on the cat? We thought that we will fight the white colonial oppression with ZANU-PF. And we never considered this fundamental question of what kind of leaders will an armed struggle throw up? Because we were so confident that once we've attained our independence, we will talk to the ZANU-PF leadership to make sure that we have got a democratic nation in which all Zimbabweans have a meaningful say in the governance of the country and a share in its abundance. The 1980 elections themselves threw a totally different light to the whole concept. Because during those elections, ZANU-PF's campaign position was, if the party does not win those elections, the Bush war would continue. So out went one man, one vote. We were never given a meaningful vote in those elections. That is the truth. And when ZANU-PF got into power in 1980, it has worked tirelessly to consolidate its power. That's why ZANU-PF has managed to stay in power these last 45 years. The only meaningful change that came was in 2017, when ZANU-PF were fighting among themselves. One faction prevailed, and to give it legitimacy, they conned the people into supporting. And people did. And as soon as they had consolidated their position, it was back to ZANU-PF as the ones who exercised absolute power. The idea that we can do the same thing and somehow stop Chiwenga becoming a dictator is far-fetched and naive. We have to learn from the past. ZANU-PF, as Geza himself clearly stated there, in which he is fighting to be the dominant faction in ZANU-PF. We want to fight to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, not to replace one dictator with another. The idea that we, the ordinary people, are as helpless as mice is at the heart of why Zimbabweans are helpless. We are not mice and the ZANU-PF ruling elite are the cats. We are all humans. We have the political power and the intellectual power equal, if not better, than those ZANU-PF thugs. And I agree with what you stated there, Ben, that all we need is to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. We can do that by stopping participating in flawed elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. That solution has been there ever since the GNU of 2008. We just haven't been opened our eyes to see it for what it is. the way forward. Supporting Geza is not the way forward. It's just another way of repeating the same foolishness of the past 45 years. Food for thought. Thank you very much, those of you who were able to join us tonight. And thank you very much, Ben. Have a good evening.